What would happen to the monarchy if one day Prince William faced a serious health issue? That question rang out like a cold alarm, especially when the palace office suddenly issued a brief announcement, enough to shake the whole of Britain. They confirmed that William's health had crossed a critical safety threshold, a phrase sharp as a blade, plunging the nation into silence. The news was broadcast in haste. The palace gates closed tight, and the lights in the study flickered as if signaling a looming shadow. Faces inside the palace looked at each other. No one dared to breathe deeply because they understood the influence of the man behind that door. Just days earlier, William had appeared with a packed schedule, a relaxed smile, friendly pats on shoulders, and the demeanor of someone bearing the weight of the monarchy's future. Yet everything changed in a fragile moment. What do you think the future of the monarchy would be if William truly faced a major health crisis? Press 1 if you believe it is merely the natural course of life and death, and press 2 if you think the monarchy has reached the limit of its golden age. Now, let's go back a few days to understand why this collapse was far from accidental. In the final days before the tragedy, Prince William still appeared in public with the calm demeanor everyone was familiar with. That week was particularly busy. His schedule left almost no free time. Mornings were spent working with community organizations. At noon, he attended charity events. In the afternoon, he visited a children's care center. At each place, William wore a broad smile, lightly bowed to greet people, and shook hands warmly as if he had an endless ocean of energy. There was a moment when he stopped to ask an elderly woman leaning on a cane, "Are you well, ma'am? We will try to do better." He still smiled, still greeted everyone as if everything were normal. No one realized that behind that composed exterior was a body struggling under tremendous pressure. William was shouldering most of the royal representation duties. Especially as the king's health declined, advisors whispered to each other about his unbelievably tight schedule. They said that sometimes the William had only 10 minutes to rest between two meetings. But to the public, he never showed a crack. During one meeting, when a reporter asked if he felt pressured, William just smiled lightly and replied, "Pressure is always there. I'm used to it." The answer seems simple, but if you look closely, his eyes that day were slightly sunken, revealing fatigue he tried to hide beneath his usual calm. The community projects he led also demanded constant presence. William spoke with teenagers, placed a hand on their shoulders, and said, "We must keep going, no matter the difficulty." His words were for them, but no one knew they were also words he quietly said to himself. No one in the meeting room at 2 o'clock that afternoon suspected they were about to witness a moment that would change the entire course of the monarchy. An employee present later recounted that when it began, the first sound he heard was not a shout, but the soft thud of paper hitting the cold floor, a very small sound. Yet it echoed in a space thickening with something unusual. William sat at the head of the table, in front of a thick stack of files he had just been reviewing. An advisor said they saw William's hand pause for a few seconds, as if he had lost balance inside his own body. Another whispered, "He looks pale." But before anyone could ask, William leaned slightly forward, placing his hand on the table, as if bracing against something attacking from within. Everything that followed unfolded like slow motion. William tried to take a deep breath, but his breathing was broken, thin, and weak as a thread. He opened his mouth to speak, but no sound came out. Then his eyes blinked hard once, twice, before losing focus completely. At that exact moment, his body toppled to one side, the chair scraping the floor with a sharp, ear-piercing screech. The sound of the fall hit everyone in the room like a hammer. "Someone call a doctor! Now!" an assistant shouted. "Do not touch him! Close the doors! Separate everyone!" The sound of chairs being shoved, frantic footsteps, phones dialing. A security officer rushed over, knelt beside William, and placed two fingers on his neck to check his pulse. "Pulse weak, very weak," he reported in a tense voice. Another person ran to fetch an emergency medical kit. An aide held William's head, calling loudly, "Your Highness, can you hear me?" There was no response. William's face was pale, eyelids twitching slightly. his shirt wrinkled under the hands, desperately trying to keep him upright. Within just a few dozen seconds, the hallway outside the meeting room was sealed off. Guards stood at both ends, signaling silence and instructing all staff not to leave their positions. The atmosphere inside the palace thickened, as if a thin layer of ice had covered every corridor. Medically, William's condition showed many signs of acute fainting. Fainting could stem from low blood pressure, arrhythmia, brain oxygen deprivation, or autonomic nervous system exhaustion after prolonged stress. But what worried the doctors most was the context. A man bearing nearly all royal representation duties, exhausted schedules, and relentless political and media pressure. His body collapsing in this way was a clear signal of severe burnout. Yet the bigger question was, is it just exhaustion? Many experts speculated that William might have shown symptoms before but deliberately hid them to avoid causing panic. An advisor once said he had seen William place a hand on his chest several times, as if trying to regulate his heartbeat. But when asked, William only replied, "I'm fine, it's nothing." A familiar answer that royal members often use when they do not wish to reveal the truth. Some even raise the possibility of an endocrine disorder, especially when the body is under prolonged stress. Cortisol levels rise, adrenaline drops suddenly, and the body shuts down. This type of fainting is extremely dangerous, signaling that the body has exceeded its tolerance for a long time. Why wasn't a doctor present at such a high-level meeting? Why were the signs of fatigue ignored? And most importantly, why had the palace never mentioned William's health for months, even though he continuously served on behalf of the king? Was this a sudden incident, or the result of a concealed condition meant to avoid panic? Looking at royal history, an heir being overwhelmed is not new. His father, King Charles, had chest pains and fainted lightly in his youth without ever disclosing it. Even further back, King George VI collapsed multiple times before his health was truly acknowledged. The monarchy has a tradition of concealing illnesses until they can no longer be hidden. And now that history seemed to be repeating itself with William. The chaos in the meeting room only subsided when the emergency medical team rushed in. They checked pulse, breathing, pupils. One doctor whispered, "Immediate transfer needed. The condition is unstable." And that was the moment when every eye in the room realized that the world outside was about to be shaken. Immediately after, the internal alarm blared, signaling that a senior royal member was in critical condition. The news of William's sudden collapse was transmitted internally in a single brief sentence. Yet it was enough to freeze the atmosphere. The person who ran to inform Kate nearly lost his voice. And just from his pale expression, Kate understood immediately. This was no small matter. She sprang up so quickly that the chair behind her toppled onto the cold tile floor. A glass of water on the table trembled, spilling a few drops. While Kate nearly bolted from the room, her heels echoed down the seemingly endless corridor. The warm lights cast over ancestral portraits hanging along the walls, giving the impression that every gaze in the royal family was watching, witnessing the next tragic moment. Kate panted, clutching her dress to keep her balance. A staff member tried to say something, but she didn't hear it or couldn't. Every step was dominated by a single thought: don't let this happen. Not to William, not now. When Kate reached the room where William was being temporarily treated, she paused for a second, just a second, before rushing in. William lay there, pale, eyes tightly shut, as if drifting into some distant place. Guards and doctors moved aside to let Kate kneel right beside him. "Please, William, open your eyes." Her voice choked. Her trembling hands touched her husband's cooling face. "You cannot leave me. You cannot." A tear fell onto William's collar, soaking into the fabric like a seal of despair. A doctor tried gently to reassure her. "Your Highness, we are doing everything we can." But Kate only shook her head, leaning closer, almost whispering into William's ear, "I'm here. You have to hear me. You have to come back." She was both a wife panicked on the edge of loss and a princess forced to maintain the composure the palace always demanded. But now, in the face of her husband's life, all royal facades collapsed. No one in the room dared speak loudly. No one breathed heavily. Silence was torn apart by the intermittent beeping of the heart monitor, as if mocking the fate of an entire family, even a nation. And while Kate held William's hand, her eyes full of determination and fear, behind a discreet door at the end of the corridor, a secret decision had already been made. Under a gray sky thick as if pressing down on the palace's ancient walls, an unmarked ambulance suddenly appeared at the east gate, a gate only open for top-secret situations. The engine sound was reduced to near silence. Two security officers stepped forward, exchanged short words, then signaled the medical team to follow. Pale yellow lights swept across the cold stone floor, reflecting off the white protective suits, making the scene even more mysterious. No one spoke. Moving quickly toward the corridor leading to the private area, the medical team carried a special shield to obscure the view. They bent low, as if every step had been meticulously calculated. One security officer held the fireproof door tightly, while another used a radio to order all cameras along the corridor to be turned off. The security protocol was activated exactly as the palace always does when wanting to conceal something from the public. Every leak had to be blocked at its source before rumors could escape through the gates. The stretcher was brought into a temporary isolated area deep on the ground floor. Doctors exchanged quick, low voices, only fragments of words about blood pressure, pulse response, and consciousness could be heard. Everything proceeded at the pace of a pre-planned operation. Even staff responsible for entry and exit records had to sign an absolute confidentiality agreement. The palace knew that even a single piece of information leaking out would be seized by the press like a storm. Internally, the biggest question was how tightly to keep this secret. Some saw it as a way to protect the royal family from public panic. Others viewed it as a traditional royal-style media crisis management strategy. After all, royal security always knows how to shut down any leak, unless social media decides to create a different story. And while the ambulance disappeared behind the steel door, the most important decisions were being made in a place no one was allowed to touch. News cannot be buried forever, and within hours, the story of Prince William's health had leaked, creating an unprecedented media storm. On social media, from Twitter and Facebook to Instagram, posts with capitalized letters, panic emojis, and short palace clips spread at lightning speed. People discussed, speculated, shared, retweeted. Every passing second made the story hotter. A reporter imagined shouting in the newsroom, "We need a bulletin right now. The public must know the truth." Meanwhile, live commentators could not hide their tension. If this information is true, the image of the royal family will be changed forever. The palace, accustomed to controlling every detail, was now on the defensive. Assistants and communication staff rushed to draft statements, choosing words carefully, considering every period, every phrase. They wanted both to protect the prince's privacy and reassure a public watching every minute. A whispered remark from the palace office echoed, "Royal security always knows how to shut down leaks, unless social media decides otherwise." Tension was evident on everyone's faces, anxious eyes, clenched hands, low but trembling voices. For the media, this was a rare opportunity. News agencies called continuously. Reporters stood outside the palace gates, cameras slowly tracking staff movements, seeking any detail for breaking news. Leaked messages, blurry photos, even rumors spread rapidly, creating a domino effect across the UK and internationally. Yet amid the rush, ethical questions remained. The prince and the family's right to privacy stood in stark contrast to the public's thirst for information. Did people have the right to know every breath, every step of the heir to the throne? While the world outside was in turmoil, inside the hospital room lit by cold white lights, only the rhythmic beeping of medical devices could be heard. Kate sat beside William's bed, hands trembling but firmly holding his, as if refusing to leave him for even a second. The strong smell of antiseptic filled the room, mingling with her rapid breaths, creating a sense both tense and suffocating. The white walls and closed curtains emphasized the isolation, a world reduced to just the two of them in crisis. Every time the heart monitor beeped faster, Kate leaned closer, whispering desperate words into William's ear. "You cannot leave me, not now." In that moment, the royal facade of polite smiles, grand ceremonies, and perfect public gestures completely vanished. "I've learned to smile for the public, but now I only know to hold his hand," she thought to herself, a painfully ironic reflection on the image the world sees versus the fear weighing on her own. Silent tears ran down Kate's cheeks as she watched every breath of her husband, her hands clenched, throat tight, breathing shallow. Yet she tried to maintain composure for the doctors and nurses around her. Every movement of William made her heart tighten. Every frown, every weak breath became a signal she carefully monitored. It was not only worry over his health. Kate also bore the double pressure of being a public figure. She understood that any sign of weakness would be scrutinized by the media, and the public would quickly debate the event. Yet in this quiet room, all rules, titles, and duties faded. Only absolute love and the fear of loss remained. She recalled past memories, their wedding day, months raising children, simple afternoons in the palace garden. All came vividly and painfully, reminding her that the man on the bed was not just a prince, but her husband, the father of her children, a part of her life. In silence, Kate whispered private prayers, her eyes following every movement, her mind both alert and panicked. Hour after hour, she did not leave his side. Outside, the world followed the news. But inside this room, only love and despair filled the space. Kate knew this crisis was not just a test of William's health, but the harshest trial for herself, a royal wife under the eyes of the world. While Catherine rushed to William's side, hands shaking but eyes determined, King Charles was immediately informed. But his health, already under years of pressure and stress, did not allow him to move quickly. Charles had to stop in the corridor, looking through the hospital door, worry evident on his face. An indescribable sense of anxiety, wanting to intervene but holding back, silent under intense pressure. "My son is still too young," he whispered, as if speaking to himself, yet enough for someone to hear the heavy heart of a father. Camilla followed, her gestures showing concern but tinged with a coldness as she tried to comfort Charles and even Kate. A hand on a shoulder, a reassuring glance. But sometimes she smiled in a puzzling way. She knew that every word, every action at this moment was being watched by both the palace and the public. Princess Anne also appeared immediately upon receiving the news, her face cold but her eyes betraying concern. She asked the doctor a few short, sharp questions, without beating around the bush. "Is he okay? Is there any immediate danger?" These concise yet weighty questions not only reflected concern, but also demonstrated her management instinct and sense of responsibility. Every gesture, every glance of Anne carried the weight of history, caring for her brother while considering her position within the royal power structure. In the hospital room, every word, every movement could influence the psychology and behavior of others. Charles, Camilla, Anne, 3 generations, 3 different expressions, all focused on one goal: protecting William and maintaining family order. This gathering was not just family, it was a subtle display of power, responsibility, and public image. The hospital lights reflected on each face, creating a tense yet vivid tableau where every frown, every clenched hand, every whispered word carried its own meaning. In this moment, the royal family was not just a symbol, but people grappling with fear, responsibility, and helplessness over the health of the future heir. Every action, every look in the room signaled that the next decisions would determine the path for William and the entire royal family, raising the question, who will stay calm and who will face the consequences of choices made in this crisis? As the hospital room remained heavy after moments of panic, the lead doctor stepped forward, voice deep but decisive. "Prince William is overloaded. His body is sending serious warning signals." These words, though brief, sank into every corner of the room, silencing everyone, leaving only the steady beeping of monitors and Kate's quickened breathing beside the bed. But what was truly happening beneath the shining skin of the future prince? Medical experts' assumptions suggest that the causes are far from simple. First, chronic stress, a packed schedule of audiences, ceremonies, trips, and community projects left William's body little time to rest. When the body is constantly on alert, the nervous system is under continuous strain, heart rate rises, blood pressure increases, easily leading to exhaustion, dizziness, or even fainting. One imaginary doctor emphasized, chronic stress is not just temporary fatigue, it is a vicious cycle that causes the body to self-destruct. Next are underlying cardiovascular and endocrine issues. Signs can be hidden beneath the smiles and formal greetings. Irregular heartbeat, fluctuating energy-regulating hormones, reducing stamina and endurance. Combined with work pressure, the risk of fainting or serious complications rises sharply. An abnormal heartbeat combined with extreme exhaustion can cause sudden fainting. And an expert explained, that is exactly what we are witnessing today. The royal culture, where always appearing is placed above health, exacerbates the problem. In the palace, resting is sometimes seen as weakness, while punctuality and smiling are considered national duty. William, as heir, could not ignore this. Shoulder pats, formal smiles. Consecutive meetings may seem normal, but in reality, they were milestones of accumulated pressure causing the body to react violently. Long-term consequences if unchecked, reduced decision-making ability, serious impacts on cardiovascular and endocrine health, national pressure resting on an incomplete leader. What seemed like a private issue has become a national matter, and political stability could be immediately affected if the heir does not rest. Kate looked at William's hands, whispering, "You cannot leave me." Within this whisper lay both fear and awareness of the pressure the royal family placed on her husband. Meanwhile, outside, the media buzzed. The doctor quietly reminded, immediate relief is needed, or the risk of recurrence will be high. A warning both medical and political, reminding that sometimes an individual's health is the key to sustaining an entire kingdom. In the hours ahead, decisions about schedules, meetings, and official pressures would have to be reconsidered. The royal must-appear culture now faced a challenge. Is public duty worth risking the life and future of the prince? No one had an immediate answer, but every breath of William served as the clearest reminder. As news of Prince William's health spread, the outside world seemed to pause for a moment. At the palace gates, the crowd grew, holding fresh flowers. The glow of candles reflected on wet cobblestones, creating a scene both solemn and poignant. Each bouquet, each candle was not just decoration but a silent prayer, a way for people to show collective compassion. Not just in London, news quickly reached major cities across the Commonwealth, from Sydney and Ottawa to New Delhi. Distant communities simultaneously lit candles and posted messages online. William, known as the heir with a compassionate heart, had entered the public's heart not only through his title but through concrete actions. Projects on mental health, environmental protection, and deep concern for young people made him a symbol of dedication. Therefore, when images of the prince lying motionless in the hospital appeared in the news, public anxiety was not only fear of personal loss but also unease about the future of the values he represented. Small gestures, laying flowers, lighting candles, writing "We pray for your highness," formed a powerful sociological expression. When a national symbol faces danger, collective compassion surges, transcending age, class, or geography. In the candlelight, one could see grief, hope, and faith among the people, all merging into an overwhelming current of emotion, both sorrowful and reverent. From the outside, it could be seen that this affection was not just for a prince, but also a way for the public to preserve long-standing spiritual values, affirming that the bond between the royal family and the people still endures. Even amidst the storm of news and media attention, these quiet moments prove the power of compassion and empathy in a modern society, where royal symbols can still touch the hearts of millions. Backstage at the hospital, Kate stood silently, watching the children play quietly, her heart heavy. She closed her eyes, and like a slow-motion film, memories of peaceful days came flooding back. During their university days, they walked together through library halls, hands tightly clasped, laughing among the dusty bookshelves. "We used to be carefree, remember?" The words echoed in Kate's mind, warm yet bittersweet. Weekend afternoons spent wandering small streets, sunlight filtering through the trees, William letting her take the steps first, his eyes always watching as if to say, everything will be all right. Those memories shifted to the grand wedding day, with Kate in her pristine white gown, William standing before her with a radiant smile, hearts full of promise. The sound of applause, music in the chapel, the lingering scent of fresh flowers in her memory reminded her that love had once been simple, complete. She remembered private moments together, quiet breakfasts, secret hugs behind doors, whispers meant only for each other's eyes. Now, all in the hospital waiting room, it all seemed so distant. Kate held the children's hands, trying to stay calm, but inside she trembled as on the first day she met William. She looked at her children, telling herself to be strong, but her eyes could not hide the worry, the fear of the unpredictable. Every breath, every step outside the hallway, pulled her back to the tense reality. Her husband was in the emergency room, and everything could change in minutes. The memories gave Kate some strength to face the situation, but also highlighted potential loss, the fragility of life under public scrutiny and royal responsibility. Happy images from the past now reflected onto the present, making her understand that love and resilience were the only things keeping her steady. The flashback ended, and Kate took a deep breath, ready to return to reality, stepping into the emotional storm by William's bedside, where every moment mattered, where she had to be both a wife and a strong symbol in front of her children. Kate stood in the warm but heavy room, the soft yellow light casting over the three small faces of George, Charlotte, and Louis. She looked at each child, hiding the deep worry in her heart so that no trace of fear reached their young eyes. George asked quietly, "Mom, is Dad okay?" Charlotte held the youngest hand tightly, while Louis looked around, not yet understanding what was happening. Kate bent down, offering a gentle but firm smile, placing her hand on each shoulder. "The doctor is helping Dad. We must be strong. Everything will be okay." Her voice was warm, but inside raged a storm of emotions. She had to hold back tears, maintain the image of a calm mother, while her heart was in turmoil, to maintain a sense of normalcy. Kate led the children to a corner, brought out paper and pencils, and asked them to draw whatever they wanted. "Let's draw a picture of the castle, remember?" The children gradually quieted, focusing on their playful drawings, small laughter softly ringing, partially easing the tense atmosphere. Kate watched silently, heart heavy but somewhat relieved that her children could temporarily forget their fear. She knew the royal environment did not allow prolonged moments of fear, and any pressure could deeply affect a child's psyche. Every word, every gesture now became more important than ever. Kate was both a mother and a symbol of strength, shielding her children from the storm outside. In the midst of uncertainty, she had to find balance, letting her children feel love, safety, and family strength. Even as the external crisis raged fiercely, the children looked at their mother, and in those innocent eyes, Kate saw responsibility and hope, knowing she had to be strong for the entire family. Night fell in the hospital room, the dim lights flickering over the medical equipment. Silence reigned, broken only by the steady beeping, rapid breathing, and Kate's trembling breaths. She bent beside William's bed, holding his hand tightly, eyes blurred with tears, heart pounding fast enough to feel each beat. "You cannot leave me, not now," she whispered, voice trembling but determined. Every word seemed to cling to the air, holding on to the life of the man she loved most. Tears streamed down her face, but she did not let go of his hand, not daring to leave that moment. All tension, pressure, and public gaze were set aside. Only two people faced the fragility of life together. In this moment, Kate was not just a royal wife, but a symbol of absolute love, of resilience in the face of uncertainty. She closed her eyes, pressed her forehead against William's hand, gasping, wishing for a miracle. Every breath, every whispered word carried a clear message. She would not let go. She would not retreat, no matter how the world trembled. This moment, though brief, became the emotional peak, making anyone witnessing it choke up, feeling the weight of love and the day of a heart confronting the storm of life and death. When love and family care are placed above all, the media still does not relent. Even as Kate remained by William's bedside, the hospital lights flickering through the night, outside, social media and news outlets were beefing alive with every detail, from overflowing hashtags on Twitter, breaking news on television channels, to sensational comments. The public closely followed every breath, every recovery moment of the prince. The palace, accustomed to strict information control, now had to struggle to protect privacy in a world where a single leak could become a storm within hours. Royal staff raced against time, issuing official statements while trying to curb unofficial sources. But the pressure was unavoidable. Curious public. Reporters urging, "We need an update now," while the royal family had to remain calm, not letting emotion override decisions. The issue was not only about information, but ethics. Do people have the right to know every detail of a prince's private life? Or should the right to protection from intrusive media be respected? The royal showbiz culture with sensational news and baseless speculation only adds to the burden on the family, amid public pressure and the responsibility to protect William's mental health. The question remains, how can one balance transparency and privacy when every moment is a silent but tense battle? Looking back at the entire incident, it is clear that this was not just a personal event, but a warning bell for the entire royal institution. William's health, as the heir to the throne, inherently tied to responsibility and the future of the monarchy, forces us to ask, are the packed schedules, invisible pressures, and a culture of always appearing, always perfect, putting humans in danger? In this context, the incident becomes a vivid testament to the fragile relationship between personal interest and public duty. The issue is not merely a fainting episode, but a long-term warning about the physical and mental health of the future leader, directly affecting royal stability and public trust. The overwork culture in the palace, where every decision and appearance is weighed for image rather than health, reveals serious limitations. This is also a moment to reflect on the future, how to balance state duties and self-care for leaders, especially national symbols. The royal institution, though ancient and revered, cannot stand outside human laws. This incident, with all its historical weight, is an opportunity for the monarchy to reconsider its work culture, putting health and dignity above perfect image and media pressure. The event is not merely a personal medical case, but a powerful warning about a self-destructive work culture, where public duty is sometimes placed above human life. Prince William, as the future king, bore pressures few outside the palace could understand. In that moment, we saw the limits of humanity even on the throne. We must praise Kate, the persistent and courageous wife, standing by her husband day and night, staying calm in front of 3 children, and still bravely showing absolute love. The medical team is equally commendable, with rapid, professional responses saving a future that the entire nation watches. Alongside them, the public, from London to Commonwealth capitals, sent flowers, candles, prayers, demonstrating deep empathy, reminding us that public symbols are also human. At the same time, we cannot ignore the shadows behind the event. The always appear culture despite health, efforts to hide information causing public anxiety, and sensational media exploiting moments of pain for views. These are reminders that power comes with responsibility, but also requires self-care. The clear lesson: a system can be stronger when its leaders are allowed to be vulnerable, to heal, and to be humanized. When the throne meets the limits of humanity, we must choose: preserve the system or preserve the people. What would you choose?